Well, good morning. I just woke up. It's currently 4:30 a.m. I have a little bit of bed hair, so I just put on a hat and let's begin today's video. Let's just begin today's YouTube video. So, in this video, I want to share my investment philosophy and my outlook on the future world. To begin, this YouTube channel is my way of documenting how I build my own investment framework, from the way I think about markets to how I position myself for the next decade. Furthermore, it's to record myself in times where I am suffering. For example, I'm losing a lot of money. How do I come back from that? And also times where like I'm making a profit, right? Like how do I retain those profit and continue growing my wealth? So without further saying, let's begin to it. My investment philosophy. My investment philosophy has always been simple. Invest in projects that serve the younger generation because in the end, progress is driven by them. Companies that meet their needs and align with your lifestyle will naturally have stronger growth and bond, hence a brighter future. Many of these younger companies tend to be disruptive and revolutionary. They change the old systems, redefine traditional industries, and they bring entirely new ideas to the market. They don't just adapt to change, they create it. And that's exactly why I focus on them, because disruption is where real long term value begins. That's why many of today's most successful companies show a clear trend of becoming more youth oriented. In reality, investing isn't necessarily complicated and it isn't necessarily easy. For me, as long as the fundamentals of a company hasn't changed, tomorrow will be better than today, and from 10 years from now will be better than now. As in my positive belief, I believe the human society is always advancing forward. Of course, by the end of the day, each and every single investment decision that I make must ultimately make sense, both logically, emotionally, and philosophy, philosopher in that sense. Okay. Market can be swayed by the emotions in the short run. However, I do believe that in the long run, everything reverts to human behaviors and common sense. Hence, if you believe that within the next 5 years, US will still remain as the world's largest economy and superpower, then you should buy the S&P 500. Short-term prices are unpredictable, driven by supply and demand, but long-term trends are determined by fundamentals. At the end of the day, the company you invest in my opinion, is really just your vision of where the world is heading. Now, that's part one, and let's move on to part two. For part two, I want to talk about imagination bubbles and the truths about markets. I agree with one key idea. In a bull market, fundamentals are often not the main drivers, and they're not what's often truly important. What truly drives the stock prices higher is imagination and the bubble it creates. Many people fear bubbles, but I believe you should embrace them. Because it's precisely imagination and bubbles that fuel the market's expansion and create massive wealth effects. Take Oklo, for example, a small nuclear fusion company that recently skyrocketed. It has barely any revenue yet, but the market still gave it an enormous valuation. Ironically, when the company eventually becomes profitable and fundamentals improve, the stock might correct. Because the market only starts caring about fundamentals when it enters a bear phase. This is why, among all other Magnificent Sevens, I hold Tesla as my largest position. Compared to companies like Nvidia or Oracle, which have already had a lot of their imaginations recognized and realized much of their growth potentials, Tesla still has an immense untapped imagination. Like Robotaxi, Optimus, the humanoid robot, and its energy network. These ventures are still in development, but that's exactly what gives them infinite storytelling potentials. And in a bull market, storytelling is the most valuable asset. If you focus only on financial reports and EPS every quarter, you would never see Nvidia's explosive rise, because that surge wasn't driven by earning, but by humanity's collective imagination about the future of technology. That also explains why new investors often earn more than veterans in the bull market, because sometimes veterans are too rational, too cautious, and they keep on looking at the financial statements too much. Oftentimes thinking to themselves the valuation is too high and sell off early. Newcomers, on the other hand, fear nothing, and they're willing to bet boldly on the future. If you analyze Oklo or Rocket Lab through traditional fundamental models, you probably would have sold too soon, because the market rallies are never purely rational. They're driven by imagination, emotion, and narrative. So that's part two. Part three. Three sectors that I am most bullish on. Now, I want to share three sectors that I am most optimistic about for the future. For the future, this means the next 5 to 10 years, and I believe these will be the technologies that will impact my group of people, which is if you're born after 2000s, and you could be able to make a profit, like a huge profit off of it. So let's begin. The first one I believe is blockchain technology. The second one I believe in is artificial intelligence and energy related to artificial intelligence, like fusion. And the third one I believe in is space industries. Well, today we'll only be focusing on blockchain, as I do believe we don't have the time. At least me personally, I don't got the time to explain all three sectors. Let's just do blockchain. Part 4. The logic and future of blockchain. I am extremely bullish about blockchain. I firmly believe the future financial system will be fully on-chain, meaning that all assets and all transactions will eventually migrate onto the blockchain network. Blockchain is essentially a fundamental technology that enables assets and information to operate transparently, securely, immutably in a 24/7 worldwide global uninterferable system. Just as the internet transformed into a informational flow, blockchain is transforming the flow of global capital and reshaping the world's economy infrastructure. It's not merely a technological revolution. For me, it's a reconstruction of the global financial and economical order. For example, for me, when you buy Ethereum and you're investing in it, you're not just speculating on crypto. You're investing in the Ethereum's blockchain network itself, its technology, its ecosystem, and its future growth. As more users, companies, and institutions build apps on the Ethereum network and there's more increases in users, demand naturally rises. As a result of demand rises, user rising, there will be higher gas fees. So will the prices of Ethereum go up. That's the correct logic of investing in altcoins, in my opinion, which is to focus on technology, network efficiency, network effects, and adoption. And part 5, the U.S. blockchain strategy. What the U.S. doing right now isn't just innovation. It's a capital absorption strategy to absorb the global hot money on the blockchain. Through asset tokenization, America is moving its financial assets onto the blockchain. Once that transition is complete, the direction of global capital flow will be redirected. Money will once again be absorbed back into the US. This could even help relieve some of America's debt pressures. Two major factors that, in my opinion, are driving this shift is 1. US backed up stablecoins, and 2. The coming way of security token offerings over the next 2 years, which is tokenization. And the new era, part 6, the new era of capital competition. For other countries, simply issuing their digital currency isn't enough. I believe we've entered a new era, the era of capital competition. In this era, it's not about who has the most foreign reserves, but about who can attract the most global hot money. Massive amounts of blockchain-based capital from Europe, America, and offshore regions are flowing into the US markets, including funds from countries like China, South Korea, Russia, and Turkey. America's capital absorption mechanic, part 7. America's strength lies in its strategic openness. It has one of the world's deepest capital markets, the most sophisticated financial system, and the strongest credit foundations due to the years of history it has created. It doesn't need to chase money. It simply opens the door and allows capital flow to get in by itself. This isn't a coincidence. It's a systematic design that the Trump decides to implement through blockchain. If Trump returns to office, this use blockchain to absorb global capital strategy will only accelerate further. And that is very evident. And you can see the change through all of the world leaders up there, like BlackRock CEO, all of them. Jamie Dimon, Trump, you can all hear them say, pro Bitcoin, pro blockchain. And the reality is, if you look at their attitudes towards the blockchain 2 years ago, it was a drastic change, because this is what truly would impact the future. Part 8, the Genius Act and reinforcement of the US dollar. The trend is already visible at the policy level. The Genius Act is a prime example. Its goal is to link tokenized assets directly to the US dollar, further strengthening the dollar's dominance in the digital era. Institutions like BlackRock have already started tokenizing US assets, representing them digitally while keeping them anchored to the dollar. Furthermore, a side note of them, Robinhood, the trading platform, has tokenized 200 US backed up stocks onto the blockchain for the Europe users. That was just a side note there. It's a brilliant financial strategy, one that simultaneously promotes innovation and consolidates the dollar's power at the core of global finance. Capital flow from the global south. As more dollar backed up tokenized assets emerge on the blockchain, especially from global south, especially from emerge investors, especially from global south, will be naturally drawn to them. In countries like Argentina, where the inflation rate is high, their currency is unstable, there's no good investment projects there. Investors can, preferably, invest in projects that are in the States. With blockchain technology, they make it drastically easier. You don't need to open any accounts or such. You simply have to open your platform that has tokenized backed up, that has assets that are tokenized. That they have tokenized U.S. currency backed up assets, and they can simply invest in that. As essentially, it's a replica of investing in the U.S. stocks or such. That's the biggest advantage of the U.S. blockchain's financial system. Part 10 conclusion. If other nations fail to develop coordinated responses, the U.S. will continue to dominate blockchain finance and absorb global on-chain capital. This is my view of future global financial orders. The competition in blockchain is no longer about technology. It's about who becomes the final destination of global capital. And that's it for today's video. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.